Woo! Thank you. Thank you. I first would like to introduce Anna Stafford. She is here. She's one of Lily's friends, and she's just recently completed her master's in music. So we're lucky to have her here visiting us today. Thank you, Anna. And a big good morning to everybody that was able to come out on this gray June day. We'll probably get some sun later. But anyway, I'm Debbie Skirto. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees, and I welcome you all. We have some announcements that RE Council, I think, is meeting today. And don't forget about Taco Tuesday. That's TALKO Tuesday. Come out on Zoom and meet with people and discuss all kinds of different subjects, but just a kind of a casual forum. That's at 7 p.m. every Tuesday. Also, next weekend is exciting because we have a large contingency of members going to the retreat at Beneville Pines. So they'll be gone the 7th through the 9th and have all kinds of activities and groups, and I'm sure they'll come back and give us some good tips and share with us all the news from Beneville. That's the 7th through the 9th. And on the 23rd of this month is RE Sunday. And I've heard through the grapevine they have some interesting new ideas and new plans for the service. So don't miss that one. And also save your energy and your appetite and your interest for June 30th, because that's a big, big day. We're going to have Choir Sunday. We're going to also have part of the service will be honoring and celebrating leadership here at MVUUC. And we also are combining it with a celebratory potluck, and you'll get more news from Megan Gallagher about that. And during the potluck, we're going to add something else in. We're going to add in a team fair. So we will have little stations where you can come and find out a little bit more about the teams, show us if you're interested in that team, ask questions, just have a good time. And I have a feeling that's going to be a very sweet experience because we're going to put all the desserts on those tables. So it'll be a lot of fun. We're glad to see such a good group here today, and I know you'll have a good experience with the service. And I would love to introduce our minister, Reverend Maggie Yenoki.
Thank you, Debbie. Welcome, Anna. And hello, everyone. How great to be here and to be together with all of you. We have rentals often in our sanctuary, and we had one last night. So always the Sunday morning after a party that finishes probably just before sunrise, we scramble a little bit, and we go, oh, where's this? Where's that? So here we are. I also want to offer a warm welcome to those who are joining us on Zoom. Welcome, welcome. And those who will be watching the recording later. We open our service with a ringing of the bowl. We ring our bowl 3 times, once to honor yesterday, once to celebrate today, and once to await tomorrow. I like trying to set that down without stopping that resonance. I think it's so beautiful. Our time together in worship is intimately connected with our daily lives and relationships with one another. And as a symbol of those connections, we light our chalice with a flame that reflects the light of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I'd like to invite Reverend Ellen Livingston to come up, and Debbie too, if you want to come with her. Reverend Ellen has a trip coming up this week. On Wednesday, she'll be traveling to Chicago to be with her family for a very difficult, a very beautiful event as they celebrate the life of her son, Luke. So I've invited Ellen to light our chalice in honor of this occasion as we mark Luke's life here at her home congregation. Just push the little button, Ellen, and that'll, yeah, and just touch it to the beautiful. Yeah, touch it, turn it flat. Yeah, there, you did it. And this other chalice, if Ellen, if you would like the second one at this end. Oh, that one's for the children. Yeah, we have a lot of chalices today. And this one is for Luke over here. I have an extra one put for him.
You give me a lot of work.
I do. It's all right, you get paid well. There you are. Blessing.
Say one thing.
Sure, come up here.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Well, we want the people on Zoom to hear you. So, come on up.
I just wanted to give a shout out to my old friend, Paula Campbell.
Paula Campbell.
Shows what a tight-knit community we are, even nationwide. She turned me on to a church near where my son lives in Chicago, a UU church. It's called Second UU. And I talked to the minister about having Luke's service there, and he was more than willing. And I didn't know him before, but Paula knew him and the church. My Chicago connection.
That's
Sorry,
right.
she's coming. She's on a many cruises. She'll be back soon. But I just wanted to lift that up
Yes,
because
it's a beautiful
it's going to be a
connection.
beautiful service.
And we're talking about connections today.
Yeah.
Look at that web we're in.
And so we are connected, even from here to Chicago. Yeah.
And
Thank you.
wherever Luke is.
And wherever Luke is. Yeah.
Blessings to you, Ellen. Blessings. And as we light our chalice, I invite you to hear the words of Reverend Celia Thurston. She writes, I light this chalice for you. I light this chalice for all the times that you have lit this chalice. For every time you struck the match or flicked that zapper thing or empowered a nervous parishioner to do the same. I light this chalice for all that you have done, for all you fostered and cultivated and nudged, for all you've suggested and directed and maneuvered. I light this chalice for the intensity of your reactions in responding to the grace and rejecting mediocrity within the tender balance between tradition and choice. I light this chalice for our being here now, some out of calling, or out of commitment, out of curiosity, out of love. I light this chalice for the time that you have spent living and loving and hurting and healing. I light this chalice for you. And I invite you all now, as you're able and desiring, to stand as we sing our invocation together, Spirit of Life. We will sing it one time through in English and then in Spanish, so we need it twice. Sienna, please. And please remain standing as we read our covenant together. It's in your order of service and also on the screen. We affirm that love is the greatest purpose of this congregation. The search for truth is our constant star, and service is our prayer. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to challenge injustice with courage, to make choices for a healthier planet, and to live out our Unitarian Universalist values every day as beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all that is sacred in life. Please be seated. Be seated for our wisdom tale. It is a time for all ages, and here we have Robert.
Good morning, everybody. Today I'm reading an excerpt from Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Oh, beautiful day, it is here at last. Today I shall find my friend. Wilbur looked everywhere. He searched his pen thoroughly. He examined the window ledge, stared up at the ceiling, but he saw nothing new. Finally, he decided he would have to speak up. He hated to break the lovely stillness of dawn by using his voice, but he couldn't think of any way to locate the mysterious new friend who was nowhere to be seen. So Wilbur cleared his throat. "Attention, please," he said in a loud, firm voice. "Will the party who addressed me at bedtime last night kindly make himself or herself known by giving an appropriate sign or signal?" Wilbur paused and listened, and all the other animals lifted their heads and stared at him. Wilbur blushed, but he was determined to get in touch with his unknown friend. "Attention, please," he said. "I will repeat the message. Will the party who addressed me at bedtime last night kindly speak up? Please tell me where you are if you are my friend." The sheep looked at each other in disgust. "Stop your nonsense, Wilbur," said the oldest sheep. "If you have a new friend here, you are probably disturbing his rest, and the quickest way to spoil a friendship is to wake somebody up in the morning before he is ready. How can you be sure your friend is an early riser?" "I beg everyone's pardon," whispered Wilbur. "I didn't mean to be objectionable." "Salutations," said the voice. Wilbur jumped to his feet. What?" he cried. "Salutations," repeated the voice. "What are they? What are you?" screamed Wilbur. Please tell me where you are, and what are salutations?" "Salutations are greetings," said the voice. "When I say salutations, it's just my fancy way of saying hello or good morning. Actually, it's a silly expression, and I am surprised that I use it at all. As for my whereabouts, it's easy. Look up, here in the corner of the doorway. Here I am. Look, I'm waving." At last, Wilbur saw the creature that had spoken to him in such a kindly way. Stretched across the upper part of the doorway was a big spider web, and hanging from the top of the web, head down, was a very large gray spider. She was about the size of a gumdrop. She had 8 legs and was waving one of them at Wilbur in a friendly greeting. "See me now?" she asked. "Oh, yes, indeed," said Wilbur. "Yes, indeed. How are you? Good morning. Salutations." "Very pleased to meet you. What is your name, please? May I have your name?" "My name," said the spider, "is Charlotte." "Charlotte what?" asked Wilbur. "Charlotte A. Kavatica, but just call me Charlotte." "I think you're beautiful," said Wilbur. "Well, I am pretty," replied Charlotte. "There's no denying that. Almost all spiders are rather nice looking. I'm not as flashy as some, but I'll do. I wish I could see you, Wilbur, as clearly as you see me." "Why can't you?" asked the pig. "I'm right here." "Yes, but I'm nearsighted," replied Charlotte. "I've always been dreadfully nearsighted. It's good in some ways, and not as good as others. Wait a moment while I eat this fly." "You mean you eat flies?" gasped Wilbur. "Certainly. Flies, bugs, grasshoppers, choice beetles, moths, butterflies, tasty cockroaches, gnats, midges, daddy longlegs, centipedes, mosquitoes, crickets, anything that is careless enough to get caught in my web. I have to live, don't I?" "Why, yes, of course," said Wilbur. "Do they taste good?" "Delicious." "Of course, I don't really eat them. I drink them. I drink their blood." "I love blood," said Charlotte, and her pleasant, thin voice grew even thinner and more pleasant. Don't say that, groaned Wilbur. Please don't say things like that. Why not? It's true. And I have to say what's true. I'm not entirely happy about my diet of flies and bugs, but it's what I've made. A spider has to pick up a living somehow or other, and I happen to be a trapper. I just naturally build a web and trap flies and other insects. My mother was a trapper before me. Her mother was a trapper before her. All of our family had been trappers way back for thousands and thousands of years. We spiders have been laying for flies and bugs. It's a miserable inheritance, said Wilbur gloomily. He was sad because his friend was so bloodthirsty. Yes, it is, agreed Charlotte, but I can't help it. I don't know how the first spider in the early days of the world happened to think up this fancy idea of spinning a web, but she did, and it was clever, too. And since then, all of us spiders have had to work the same trick. Not a bad pitch, on the whole. It's cruel, replied Wilbur, who did not intend to be argued with on his position. Well, you can't talk, said Charlotte. You have your meals brought to you in a pail. Nobody feeds me. I have to get my own living. I live by my wits. I have to be sharp and clever, lest I go hungry. I have to think things out, catch what I can, and take what comes. And it just so happens, my friend, that what comes is flies and insects and bugs. And furthermore, said Charlotte, shaking one of her legs, do you realize that if I don't catch bugs and eat them, bugs would increase and multiply and grow numerous, and they'd destroy the earth, wipe out everything? Really, said Wilbur? I wouldn't want that to happen. Perhaps your web is a good thing after all. The goose had been listening to their conversation and chuckled to herself. There are lots of things Wilbur doesn't know about life, she thought. He's really innocent for a little pig. He doesn't even know what's going to happen to him around Christmas time. He has no idea that Mr. Zuckerman and Lurvy are plotting to kill him. And the goose raised herself a bit and poked her eggs a little further under her so that they would receive the full heat of her warm body and soft feathers. Charlotte stood quietly over the fly, preparing to eat it. Wilbur lay down and closed his eyes. He was tired from his wakeful night and from the excitement of the morning. A breeze brought him the smell of clover, the sweet-smelling world beyond his fence. Well, he thought, I've got a new friend, all right. But what a gamble friendship is. Charlotte is a fierce, brutal, scheming, bloodthirsty, everything I don't like. How can I learn to like her, even though she is pretty and, of course, clever? Wilbur was merely suffering the doubts and fears that often go with finding a new friend. In good times, he was to discover that he was mistaken about Charlotte. Underneath her rather bold and cruel exterior, she had a kind heart and was to prove loyal and true to the very end. And now, if there are any children present, we can go out to our classrooms. Don't think so. Okay.
We'll just sing the brief benediction. Our communal actions of generosity are one way that we live out our values. By taking time to gather our offering as a part of our weekly worship, we embrace a ritual that says our giving is an essential part of the life of our congregation and also our spiritual well-being. We celebrate how the two are in relationship and woven together in our lives. One way that we live out our ministry to the community and offer our generous compassion to those in need is to share our offering plate with a local charity pre-selected by the Justice team and approved by the board. For the month of June, we dedicate our Share the Plate to our very own Camp de Benneville Pines. And I invite our own Lily Ostadio to come up and talk to us about the significance of our support for Camp de Benneville.
Hello, thank you for being here this morning. I have a lot of emotions that are connected to Camp de Benneville Pines. It is a beautiful place, not only environmentally, but emotionally. Some of my best memories are at Camp de Benneville, whether it's running through the lakes that they have up there, or screaming at trees, which is a very pleasant activity because it's so devoid of what we have in everyday life. There's sounds everywhere down here. It's very loud, and that can be an amazing thing, especially with making connections with people. But Camp Venable has something special in the silence that is up there. Camp takes very good care of itself, and the environment is beautiful, and that is part of the reason why it is important to support them, just to keep it as beautiful as it needs to be a pleasant experience. But not only does it take care of itself environmentally, it takes care of itself with the community that it builds through the children and through the adults. I've been going to camp since I was 6 years old, and I have many great memories that I will never forget, and I have made connections that will live through me with my whole life. I am in love with the community that camp builds. The first time I went, I was very nervous because I believed it to be sort of like school. And while I do enjoy school and I love learning, it does not have the same sort of connection and emotional vulnerability that is encouraged at camp. The first time I went, I was surprised with how kind and gentle people were up there. There is a love that just emanates from every person that is up there, and it makes you feel so comforted, and it makes you feel beautiful inside and out. As I kept going, I realized that it wasn't only me, but all the other children and all the adults up there that feel the effects of the love at camp. I've seen the effects of camp not only in myself, but in the people that I have remained in connection with through social media sites or through my phone, through texting. Everyone talks about camp all the time because it makes such an impact on us. It has made such an impact on me emotionally with my growth and academically because I went through a very hard time when I was younger and I felt like I wasn't supported. But camp gave me that support and made me realize that I need to put effort in myself in order to live a happy life. This is the effect that camp gives people. It makes you feel very caring for not only the environment, but other people, and it makes you care for yourself. As I kept going to camp, I realized that I wanted to be one of those people that make people care and make people feel loved. So I took a counselor training program, and now I counsel up there other children for 3 weeks every summer and 1 week in the winter. I absolutely love it. The elementary kids are the first week that I counsel, and they are beautiful children. The joy that you see in their faces as they go up there and they make new friends and they realize what it feels to be free for the first time is something that you never forget. And even more so in the junior high kids. Junior high is a very tumultuous environment for many people. I had a very hard time in junior high because I was learning how to be myself. And that is what I see in the children that go during the second week with junior high kids. It can be hard for a lot of people. There are a lot of emotions and a lot of hormones just running around in junior high. But it can also be a very beautiful thing to witness as children learn how to talk to each other and how to talk to adults. And that is something that I had to learn because the adults up there, they give you a space to talk to them without confrontation and without thinking that you will be in trouble, I suppose. Talking to adults can be very intimidating, but the adults at camp give you such a comforting and welcoming experience that you feel very comforted around them. The children learn how to be together and how to work together. Down here, down the mountain, you can feel very isolated and feel like your journey is your own. But at camp, you realize that it is a web of connection everywhere. The earth is a web of connection. And if you tap into that, it is very beautiful, and it's an amazing thing, the support that everyone can give you. People learn this at camp because of the web that it creates, the small web that runs through the entire camp. You can go to anyone for help, for laughter, and for smiles. I have never felt more vulnerable and more happy than I am at camp. I've cried to my friends like I've never before because I feel so comforted up there. I feel welcomed and like I can cry without judgment. And among the children that I counsel, it's an amazing thing to witness when they learn their own emotions and how they express themselves. I've learned many things, not only from my experience as a camper, but as a counselor. I've learned that it is important to trust other people and to work with other people. I've also learned that to be supportive and to be a good counselor and a good human being, you have to be vulnerable yourself. If other people are going to be vulnerable with you, you have to show your own emotions and show that you understand them and show your own empathy. This is something that only camp has taught me because of the amount of communication that is encouraged at camp. It's a beautiful place, and I would not be the person I am today without it. And I am looking forward to the next few years that I have there as a counselor and as a camper. Thank you.
We are grateful to be here in this place and up at our camp next weekend. There's still time to sign up, I'm sure. But in these places where we belong, participating within our shared work of becoming and activating the change that is needed in personal lives and in our shared community web of the world. It is with gratitude for the many gifts of our community that our offerings will now be given and received. I invite those in the sanctuary to come forward with your generous offerings. so beautiful, Anna. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to have you with us today. Sharing our joys and sorrows in our lives is an important part of what makes us community. We make that a part of our Sunday worship by you submitting one of these little slips or popping something on the chat on Zoom, if anyone on the Zoom account would like to do that. I had a couple that I also want to add to today's. But let me first read. We have 3 joys submitted today, so we're on a roll here, I guess. We're not afraid of the sorrows. We're not. We hold those very well together. But I have 3 joys. The first one comes from Karen Lane. Karen, she writes, my honorary son in Maine, Carlos, graduated yesterday from high school and his future is bright. Yeah. She says, love, 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 love this kid. So blessings to Carlos. And this one comes from Ellen and George. They write, last Sunday, we had the joy of being with family celebrating our granddaughter Carissa and her husband Sage's wedding. This was after the wedding being postponed for a year while Sage underwent extensive medical treatment. Yeah, wow. A joyful time on the Columbia River near Portland, Oregon. Beautiful. We did miss you, but it's good to have you back. What a beautiful joy. And the third one comes from Amy and Alan Randall. They wrote, drum roll please. That's good, that's good. Yesterday we celebrated the commencement of our son Jason, UC Riverside, receiving his PhD in evolutionary biology. We're all so proud. Yay, Dr. Randall. Yeah, so the 2 that I would like to add, one is a great joy. And I just want all of you to join me, this native New Yorker, in saying thank you to those 12 strong and brave New Yorkers completing their jury duty service on Thursday, May 30th. We thank you for your service. Yes. And a bit of a sad one, but this is someone we can hold in our hearts, the Obama family, because on Friday, Michelle Obama's mother, Marion Robinson, died at age 86, surrounded by her loved ones and a beautiful death. So that part's good, but the grief goes on, yeah. So I invite you to join me in a spirit of prayer, and we will follow that with a moment of shared silence together before we sing our gentle song. Our prayer today begins with the words of Episcopal Bishop and Indigenous Elder Stephen Charleston, who writes, we live on the eve of the unexpected, for we never know what the next moments will bring. We are spiritual surfers riding the crest of now on our exhilarating balancing act through time. While we may not be able to predict what will come, of one thing we are certain. It is not the waves alone that will bring us safely to shore, but the spirit of both the sand and the sea. And before we begin our gentle song, I just want to add one more, that we surround Reverend Ellen with our love as she goes on this difficult journey this week. Please remain seated as we sing together, How Could Anyone? Our reading today comes from excerpts of an essay titled, We Call These Things Love, written by UU minister Reverend Adam Rober-Smith. It was printed in full in our new book, Love at the Center, Unitarian Universalist Theologies, published by Skinner House Books. I'm blessed to live out in the woods where the neighbors I see most often are oaks and hemlocks, deer and bear, lichen and moss. I wave at my human neighbors when I see them, but the community that I am most related to while at home is the non-human natural world. From my study window, I see interconnection after interconnection, lichen on the trunks of the oaks and deer nibbling on green shoots, mosses taking back the yard from the grass that does not really belong there. The interplay of sun, soil, and water shape the presence of the plants and animals that are my nearest neighbors. Every day, this place teaches me about relationship, community, and connection. And on rare and wonderful days, this place shows me something that changes how I understand the world. One Sunday, I arrived at church 20 minutes later than I usually do, because I just could not tear myself away from a miracle that was in my front yard any sooner. A family of 5 black bears, an adult female, 2 second-year cubs, and 2 new cubs were playing King of the Hill on a massive mulch pile waiting to be spread over the garden. The cubs would climb to the top, wrestle, tumble down, and climb right back up again. But at one point, the mama bear grabbed one of her cubs, pulled it in close for a hug, and then let it go back to play with its siblings. There was no way I was going to leave my house until this was over. Not because there were bears in my yard and it was scary, but because there were bears in my yard and it was sacred. Like many of us, I find inspiration, comfort, and profound connection in the life that is beyond me, in the wholeness of this amazing existence. So watching a family of bears playing together in my yard on a Sunday morning was worship outside of the sanctuary that prepared me for worship within the sanctuary as well. My Unitarian Universalism is equally informed by 2 ways of approaching the world. Number 1, I'm a Universalist, so I believe in a love so powerful, so complete, so everything and everyone is held in its all-inclusive embrace. And number 2, I'm an eco-theologian. I believe that the nature of existence is revealed in our universe and the world of which we are a part. There is a complexity here, though, as I fully believe that love is foundational to reality. I also believe that the human understanding of love, the feelings, longings, and actions, is not something that we can presume that other living beings experience in the same ways that we do. I don't know what the bears felt that day, but I saw something that made my heart swell in recognition. So what can the natural world tell us about love? Where is love in our broader ecological existence? Maybe Amy and Alan's son can tell us. But how can eco-theology reveal that very love that is the center of our being? I've come to understand through science, experience, and religion that all things exist in interdependence and interconnection. Relationship is the basis of being. Our breath sustains the plants, and their breath sustains us. Love is the active realization of that relation. This is what the living world reveals to us, and this is what we can use in our meaning-making too. Unitarian Universalism, I believe, can bring such community into being. And through our covenants, we affirm that relationship is at the core of our faith and that love is at the center. We are a people of covenant, of relationship, and when we are living our faith, we are we use our relational power to grow in a love that values and respects everything that it connects. We do not need to perceive the same way for something to be real. I do not know what the bears understood to be happening among them, but I recognized in their actions something akin to how I act and how I live. In that family of bears playing, I saw relationship actively realized, and I felt it and perceived it as love. Perhaps this is what the natural world can tell us about love, that other beings may not love as we do, but we recognize love as something beyond the limits of our own feelings. If love is the very best version of any and all relationship, then love is at the center of life itself and networked throughout our entire existence. I know I've done this to Lily a couple of times. I say, well, that's your sermon. So beautiful, thank you. Cheryl Perkins is a neighbor and a friend and a clergy with the Vineyard Fellowship. Often, as I pass her home on my walks with Sophie, we find Cheryl seated on her porch enjoying a good book, or what she considers the good book. And Sophie pulls the leash, trying to get up those steps for those treats that Cheryl offers to every one of the neighborhood pooches. But Sophie does have a special place in Cheryl's heart. But our conversations quickly go to, okay, what are you preaching this week? I have to meet people where they are and speak their lingo. But it's followed by a deep dive into meaning making and clergy talk for what we hope comes from the messages that we're each working on. And when I showed Cheryl the image and title for this week's service on the front of your order of service, she was quickly reminded of an aspect of the relational web that she has carried from her childhood. Cheryl shared with me that it was always her dad's insistence that no one swipe away any cobwebs or spider webs in their home because they were organic mosquito nets, provided by nature as a free and necessary part of ongoing pest control. Another famous web-centered relationship shines forth from what I didn't know was going to be our wisdom tale today, but the 1952 children's book titled Charlotte's Web tells the classic tale of a wee spider who saved the life of Wilbur the pig. Charlotte lives out the best metaphor of that web of relationship by her passionate intervention and justice work of weaving the words terrific, radiant, humble into her 3 consecutive webs above Wilbur's pen in order to persuade Farmer Zuckerman to let him live. Yet our meaning making is not limited to stories from Cheryl's web or Charlotte's web. That spider webs are valuable tools that will both kill mosquitoes and save pigs. But we can also return to the stories that we have woven from our relationships in our own lives as we live out our magnificent journeys within our 7th Unitarian Universalist principle, our respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. But how many of us, show your hands if you wish, see that web as warm and cozy and fuzzy? Most times, yeah. Do we see that the web of life's interdependence is always working perfectly like a well-oiled machine? And do we feel that principle calling to us to co-create an interdependence that we haven't yet seen in the world? 90% of the time, yeah. But do we know that web to also be so complicated and such a challenging container for our education in these unusual times? It's a perfect place for the hard work of spiritual growth. And every lesson that comes is tied to the ways that we tend to the web of our interdependent world. Do we see how the good work of relationship seems to be our greatest task in this post-pandemic, ultra-political, extremely stressful time in our lives, when the web of life seems more fragile than we ever remember? Our greatest lesson, and perhaps our greatest goal, might just be to prepare our own minds and hearts for the hard work of a healthier web of relationship. To slow our nervous systems down to a pace that allows for a sense of peace in our bodies, and to spend dedicated time in spiritual practice for our best selves, be it prayer, meditation, journaling, flower arranging, gardening, reading, writing, group meetings, camping, hiking, biking. Fill it in. The web that we're a part of and connected to allows for all of that to nourish our spirits for these hard times that are here. I don't need to tell you. But they're growing, more challenging, not less. And our grounding in spirit is as important, and in some ways more important, than making certain that we're eating a healthy diet and taking the medications that our bodies need. But don't quote me on that. But yet we see, don't we, how our spiritual needs vary and shift according to our life experience. We do well to keep ourselves in a place of open awareness of our degree of centeredness and stressfulness by keeping our finger on the pulse of our spirits as a part of our daily routine. I've seen so much evidence lately of how slowing down and withdrawing from the private edges of the web is just as important as being present and accounted for at that center hub where most you use are usually feel obligated to be in there doing it. But I want to give you a break from that. Please take care of yourselves personally. And let's pay attention to what we're paying attention to. And pay attention to the words that are coming out of us. Let's not get so caught up in the events that are swirling that we lose our center and find ourselves as vendors of judgment and rejection, instead of those who offer the good work of healing and hope and connection. And yes, hands up, I'm talking to myself too. Most ministers who are professing are confessing. So I know that I need to seek spirit in order to make my way through the mess that we're all in. And I do not take lightly my responsibility to be there for you as you make your best way onward. I need to hear the words of Elizabeth Barrett Browning when she taps my shoulder and says, "Maggie, dear, don't forget, earth's crammed with heaven, and every common bush is afire with God. But only those who seek take off their shoes, and the rest sit round and pluck blackberries." She tells me I need to be quiet and that I can pick blackberries too later. She tells me to be one who knows to take off my shoes. And be able to hear what the burning bush is saying. She tells me I need to be about the relationships that need tending and mending. And there are many. She tells me I'm getting too angry too often about things that must just be as they are. She tells me to slow down and wonder more about love instead of ramping up more division. She tells me that this is what has been making me cough a lot. I know she's right. When I do these things, I hear new questions in my bones. I hear, how can we be in relationship with those who seem so compelled to support former President Trump? Instead of laughing at them or rejecting them for their politics? How can we make it safe for them to come to their senses? And I don't mean to think exactly as we, but the people that I know and love that support him are not thinking for themselves. But I'm not a safe place for them to come, because in the past, when they have, I've screamed my head off about how ridiculous they are. And we laugh because we recognize, right? But it's horrible. That isn't how we need to be as UUs, as people of love. How can we make it safe for them to come to their senses instead of hoping that they hit rock bottom and wake up to be as smart as we are? But instead, how can we be a place of safe harbor when we are instead a bee's nest of correcting and shaming? How can we become living examples to those who celebrate non-binary lives and not spend any energy hoping that those who think differently feel uncomfortable during Pride Month? Is that our goal? Can we be in relationship with those who see the world as binary and help them know that it is okay to break open? It's safe to do that. God won't dislike you. So how can we be good stewards of the many relationships that we are all tenderly holding within the web, knowing its fragility and sensing how sticky it is, and aware of its vulnerability? Firstly, we see all of our relationships, even within ourselves, as burning bushes that are afire with God, however you define that. And we treasure our relationships and we value them so much that we would give everything we have to make sure that we don't harm anyone or allow harm to come to anyone else from another source. And secondly, we take off our shoes because we see with the eyes of our hearts that our relationships, this web of life, is holy ground. And lastly, we wonder without judgment at the sheer grace or unearned favor of our place here on this very small planet with each and every other being that we share life with. We know from a deep and fresh place in our bones these words from Talia Hunter, that everything a person ever does is either an act of love or a search for love. And when seen through the eyes of love and relationship, and so with this wisdom, we do not wish them harm, but healing. Amen. So we're singing about relationship. If you would stand and prepare to let it be a dance. Our unison benediction is our farewell and closing that we offer to one another. We read it together aloud in unison. As we close our time together and extinguish our chalice flame, may we let its light shine through us to strengthen us for the way ahead. May our lives serve as a light in this world we care so much about. And everyone is invited for coffee and conversation after we enjoy Anna's postlude.